This election is won. This is the final edition of this video. I was watching Kamala Harris from 157 days before the election, and she blossomed like a beautiful flower into the best speaker in the world. I just listened to one of her speeches. But there was a black woman's record-breaking Zoom meeting. There was a white woman's record-breaking Zoom meeting. And there was also white dudes for Kamala Harris, Republicans for Kamala Harris, and actors for Kamala Harris. And there was some hope. People started to have hope. And then there was a Gen Z meeting, and she expressed support for Gen Z, but also Tim Walz, as a teacher and coach, he also has the support and understanding of Gen Z. So Kamala Harris said her mother, who was a scientist from India, she said, "Don't just complain, do something." So Kamala went through law school, was a prosecutor, a district attorney, attorney general, senator. She moved into vice presidency, and then now she's going to be our president, and she's doing something. So we want to live life on our own terms. And she said, anyone who beats down another is a coward. And Meghan Markle, who stood up for women at 11 years old against Procter & Gamble and spoke to Hillary Clinton, Gloria Allred, and another lady who is a VIP, she spoke to him and complained about certain things that were trying to take the possibilities away for women in the community. But what was really sort of an affirmation for me is that Meryl Streep made a speech about permission. And I was feeling the problems with permission before. And the permission she was talking about was Donald Trump was ridiculing a handicapped person and imitating his disability. And Meryl Streep said this kind of evil act gave permission for other people in the community to do the same thing. So the thing is what it is, the permission is normalizing certain actions, certain kinds of behaviors, not just against handicapped people. But I observe permission also. So in 2023, I took my bachelor's degree off my resume, but I left my experience in a certain industry on my resume. I was called in 2 days to a job. I went on the job, and I went in on a lower level than my experience that I had, but I was willing to work because I work more than one job. So I'm working, and I'm getting this bullying, which if bullying follows you from Delaware or Boca all the way to North Palm Beach County, that's like stalking. And then I went across the street to the 7-Eleven, and I was getting this bullying again. It was very specific. And then I was back at work, and an African-American sheriff came in and made a comment which was sort of a little offensive. And then the Delray Beach housing staff also was up all the way up there in North Palm Beach County. So I feel like I was stalked. So I noticed other things happening to me. So I gave it an acronym, because if we don't observe that there's something wrong happening in society, you don't make note of it, you can't admit that it's happening and stop it. So I made an acronym called OFNA, which is the Obama Free Phone, Pre-Conquest Bragging, New York Gang Stalking Bullying. That's what I experienced up in North Palm Beach County, trying to work from 7 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and then working from 1 to 6 online. And the permission really comes from the people who control the country, which are white people. So I call it the WAPA and OFNA. The whites give permission. But the permission that the whites are giving is very serious, because it's causing injury, and death. Like in the case of O.J. Simpson's wife, I'll follow up on that further on in later slides, but here's an example of permission. When I worked for the city of Delray Beach, which was my fourth government job, and they did not know that I started in government at 17 because that fell off my resume. I bought a property for sale by owner, and the sheriff was over there, and they said to me they're looking for me. Anyway, I was bullied out of the city of Delray Beach, and then I came down to Boca Raton. I was working a second job. My first job was with Bitcoin, FinTech, blockchain. And my second, I was working another job in Boca Raton. So here's the sheriff, 6:45 o'clock in the morning, down by my second job. But I assume that he has permission to go into the Boca Raton police jurisdiction where I'm working. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so John Sarbanes is a senator who I really love. Senator Paul Sarbanes, who made the law called the Sarbanes-Oxley Law, they were trying to do the For the People Act. And John Sarbanes made many videos. And video 4 of For the People Act, video 4 says, is 300 million Americans against big money. And so I watched his video and then I related it to my job or being bullied out of my job in the city of Delray Beach. And then what people were telling me, I related it to a complaint in Boca Raton, a complaint in Delray, and then I tried to analyze what was happening because I was doing volunteer work for Congress, Senate, and the House, even though they did not ask me. But if John Sarbanes identified problems up in Maryland, and I see the problems 20 times worse in Palm Beach County, I think it was worth telling someone that the bill should have been passed and that they should have advisory boards in every city to make sure that people follow the law, the new law. Well, so it's 300 million Americans against the big money. That's what video 4 says. And I said the worst scenario is that with COVID, we have 31 million rich Americans with robots working and 300 million dead. The other scenario, the probability is that Trump would be president and you have 31 million rich people or big money with robots working and 300 million Americans who have no benefits because Trump is taking away Medicare and everything. And the other scenario, which we think is going to take place, is that you have 300 million Americans with benefits and opportunity from Kamala Harris. So who's working? With the AI, we now have the robots being tested in Japan and China to do everything. And the AI is so advanced that it has imagination. But women want their rightful place at the table. Trump abuses people. He abuses lower class people, handicapped people, and women. And he makes a lot of abusive jokes too. When we had COVID, he said, drink Lysol. And he also has no respect for women. He disposed of Ivanka's mother, and then he disposed of Marla. I met Marla Maples up in North Palm Beach County, and she's happy because he helped her to get a job picking the TV programs. And so she's a wealthy woman, and her daughter went to law school, so she's okay. But the way he treated Melania when Melania had a lovely son, Baron, to have a porn star and embarrass his wife, his family, and the nation again, because Bill Clinton also had that kind of publicity. It just was so offensive. But Trump, the way he treats women, it's a sign of misogyny because he treated his wife so poorly, and then the woman, the porn star, was also treated poorly because she gets this bad publicity. So I think it is a crisis And maybe Kamala Harris is just in time to save us from total disaster. But the crisis is about people who are sent, the art of degrading and devaluing a woman, and what the Republicans have done. Trump hired the judges for the Supreme Court to remove Roe versus Wade. And Roe versus Wade provides for abortion clinics, but abortion clinics provide other health care for women besides abortions. So the point that Kamala Harris made, it's about autonomy over our own bodies. And she said, are there any laws over men's bodies? She just asked all the right questions because she was a prosecutor in the court. So how does scent work? Well, people with big money and people with power send people. They send people to do dirty work and they cover it up. But I remember that the Jehovah's Witnesses were sent to Jamaica, and first I had a big white man and a white woman. Then the Jackson 5, they came to Jamaica when I was 10 years old. And I was studying French to go to school in Canada. But these Americans came and they started to impact my life at 10 years old. But recently, I was at a location where I am always frequent, and a Jamaican guy was sent to tell me something pretty insultive. But I don't really need him. I'm not really a person who needs a lot of people. I need a lot of programs and social media. That's what I need, and a lot of work. But this guy was also sent to say something rude to me in McDonald's. But what he said was really misogyny. So I don't know why I'm the special target of it, but I don't like to fight with strangers. But basically, this is the problem for me. My ex-husband did not go to divorce court. So my son did not have justice. He was not able to tell a judge that at 6 years old, he tested gifted at Hagan Ranch Elementary School. And the judge would have, I've been working since I'm 17 in the government of Jamaica, so I could have gone to work and the judge checked back in 2 months how I was doing with my mortgage and my son staying in his gifted class. Now, my ex-husband my children told me that a state trooper was at the house. And then the state trooper was up by me when I was working for the city of Delray Beach. And he ticketed my car back to back. That's his power. That's how he can use his power. Because I guess he's on my husband's side. Because my ex-husband is African-American and he's African-American. And that's how I identify the gangs in government. And this is outrageous government conduct. And there are cases with outrageous government conduct. This is outrageous government conduct too, because 2006 is when I was bullied out of the city of Delray Beach. And although I talked to the House, the Senate, Congress, and the press, for them to come down, police presence is a little intimidating. And for them to follow me, the sheriff, out of their jurisdiction down to where I'm working, 6:45 a.m. in the morning, is outrageous government conduct. The art of degrading and devaluing a woman. Now, Kanye West has a second wife, and he has her walking around looking like a whore. And in this one, he's having her have oral sex. And the media is watching him do this. Everybody is watching him degrade and devalue his second wife. And nobody is stopping him. So what they're doing is that's giving permission to normalize this. That's misogyny too. But basically, I think this is symbolic of the crisis we're in. Now, your face is your identity. That's the first thing you see. And Facebook also has all our faces. And there's a company in communist China that has all our faces. And Elon Musk said they can just pull up the face on the computer and say, this person is the enemy, and they'll find that person, send a drone, and they'll blow up the whole building. So your face is your identity, and some airports are allowing you through just by facial recognition. And of course, all my apps and some of my work have me do my driver's license and a selfie, facial recognition. So that's how important your face is. So the facial mutilation of O.J. Simpson's wife and Rihanna are symbolic of the crisis of misogyny and crimes against women. But it's become an art and it's as if nobody cares. But I relate everything that I've experienced and link it to what's going on in the community, what is being normalized, and what is being permitted, and why they're giving permission for these things. But Meghan Markle, at 10 or 11 years old, she started to talk about the psychological attacks on women in Procter & Gamble in advertising, and she had to talk to Procter & Gamble, Hillary Clinton, and Gloria Allred, and another VIP about it. Also, I noticed that there are attacks which we refer to as toxic workplaces, and Facebook had a long discussion about what people were experiencing. So this really is a crisis because we normalize bullying, we normalize misogyny and different kind of behaviors, and then we can't even work together. So I was having a peace and prosperity event at the Boca Raton Plaza Hotel, and I posted on Facebook and LinkedIn. Meetups.com, I couldn't post it there because they now want you to pay to use meetups.com. But my peace and prosperity event was interrupted because I went to Hughes Park and Omega Psi Phi fraternity was having a party. And I heard the rap music. I was watching the kids, and I go to Hughes Park a lot. And there were like 2 parties in Hughes Park. Lots of food and music and fun. And then they had this rap song about whores on your tippy toes. And then I asked this girl who graduated from FIU, I said, what does your music do for you? And she said it makes you smarter. However, so I think it's a cultural thing. Back to Republicans, Donald Trump put the Supreme Court judge who would overturn Roe versus Wade. So that's something women have to fix. That's part of the crisis. But I was talking to the head of the anthropology department at Florida Atlantic University because I realized that my way of thinking and my culture made me feel different all the time and cause conflict. But I found this document about humans are genetically predisposed to kill each other. And this was in Psychology Today. So if we are predisposed, that means perhaps when we get up in the morning, we need God or something to help us to decide to stop the predisposition to kill each other. But this is about cultural differences. And this is a document I found, Munger and John, 2007. It said that different cultures have different thinking styles and different cultures have different expectations. And that was a key difference with me and my ex-husband. He was African American and I am Cuban and Jamaican. I guess he didn't even know my dad was Cuban. And he did not even know that I started working when I was 17. So I had to do the research. I came upon Hal Draper's document about hunter-gatherers use social controls of gossip, ridicule, ostracism, and shunning. These are methods of social control. And then I never really experienced that for years and years because I was pretty protected by work and family life. But when I started to experience gossip, ridicule, and ostracism, I found this document and I said, oh, that is what that is. And then I realized that when social controls erode, it turns into misogyny, which Donald Trump is helping to give permission for misogyny. And for people to come in to somebody, to send somebody to use aggression against me, that is misogyny, and that's being normalized too. So the thing is that people are getting away with things. For instance, with O.J. Simpson case, nobody was convicted. But when I look at these 3 sisters, Nicole Brown sisters, I said to myself now, These are three white women. How can they sit around? Their sister is killed and nobody's convicted. There they had a civil suit and got some money. But the O.J. Simpson case was on TV. The perpetrator, and what was going on, if we don't stop this kind of thing, it will happen over and over again. But then I was able to see that there are gangs in government and that people with big money and people with power send someone. I had many people sent to talk to me. Now I'm looking at the Brown sisters again, and they said the grief does not let up 30 years later. Well, I think you've got to do something. I think I will probably contact them because they need to know certain things that happen in my case or other things I've seen. Because I think they'll feel better if they know that there are ways to stop the permissions that are occurring in the community. So some of the things we can do are prevention by support system. We can detect certain things. You can notice if people hang out together and they send one person. Sometimes people come around you to stalk you or rob you. And we have to really make a note of what's happening. But I am preparing for the court. When I went to Palm Beach County Court, I did not say very much because I was very busy working. But we had a successful case and we had 5 defendants, and I feel like I understand that court process because I had a subpoena and I also was on the witness stand. So my problem now is with the Supreme Court judges overturning Roe versus Wade, United States court is not really effective anymore. And the way that the United States courts treat Donald Trump, they toy with Donald Trump, shows that the courts in the United States are defective. So we need to find justice. And where would we find justice? How would we get back the reproductive freedom? How would we get back the autonomy over a woman's body, which a woman deserves and a man always has? How would we get back women's health care? Well, Kamalanomics has been published. We've heard her videos and her promises. And she promised the sororities, the teachers, the Republicans, everybody. So we're hoping that women's rights will be represented and protected. So her marketing is really good. She looks like a superwoman. And she's a proven winner. She has the perfect resume, going from a prosecutor, district attorney, attorney general, senator, vice president, president. Perfect resume. So I had to get specific support for what I needed to do. So I started searching on the internet and I found Caribbean diaspora. And my best friend from high school, she studied German, French, and Spanish, and she lives in Germany since about the 80s. I watch her on Facebook and watch her family. I studied French with her, and I was supposed to go to school in Canada. However, I had Americans come to my house in 1967, so I was kind of encouraged to come to Miami to school. But I found Caribbean Diaspora Lives Matter on the internet. So I started searching more, and I realized that the people from the Caribbean, their migration patterns are very unusual. But since my girlfriend lives in Germany, and I was supposed to go to Canada, and I have family in the UK and Canada, I got this map for the video. So I also found this one. It says, Caribbean Diaspora Lives Matter. Join this powerful dialogue. But I didn't even know this existed until I started to prepare this video. And then it said, believe in your culture because it matters. It says, Caribbean Lives Matter. And so the delegation I would like to have go to the International Human Rights Attorney would include Caribbean Diaspora Lives Matter and Time Done. I actually found a guy on Time Done today, but I was searching to see if he was from the Caribbean, but his about on Facebook did not say whether he was born in the Caribbean or not. Also in the delegation, we need people who are impacted by something that is being normalized or something they're given permission for in the United States, which is calling people limited value. So it was Officer Orderer in Seattle who caused this protest because he was laughing about somebody being killed and saying they were of limited value, just cut a check. But the slaves were first considered of limited value, so I guess that's why they used to kill slaves. They kill African Americans because black lives didn't matter or black lives are of limited value. So the whole limited value concept or principle came to light, and we have to see Kamala Harris promised that she will have opportunities for the middle class and the children. And so we hope that the people of limited value can work hard and move up in society. This is the protest, and I noticed that if you Google protest, you'll see Americans are famous for protesting. Here's protesting with fires, and then they get arrested and they get really, really mad and they're so emotional and they have posters that say justice. And then 2 weeks later, they're going back to the mall, going to their job and going to their house and not thinking about the issues and the problems and what's being normalized and what's being permitted and who's giving permission. These are the things that we need to look at. We're going to get ready for the next protest next year because nothing has changed. We think that Kamala Harris as president will help to make women get more justice, but we are reaching out to victims. Please begin to collect evidence and videos. You have to have awareness. You have to write things down, take pictures, make videos like I did. We'll organize Zoom calls. There's an international human rights attorney on LinkedIn. When she was 9, her mother was killed and thrown in a landfill. And she was going to a psychiatrist, and then something clicked and she said, I'm going to save myself. And she went to law school and she became an international human rights attorney. So we need the delegation to go to the attorney, and we need the delegation to go to the International Criminal Court. Because cases like the O.J. Simpson case and certain things I've experienced, I know that the people who are putting these sites on the internet, I know Black Lives Matter, I've spoken to them. I know Time Done, I've spoken to them. Well, I've messaged them. But we need the people to put things together because we want to stop normalizing these kinds of actions. So here's the ICC court. Although the United States Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade and it's not dependable, I think that the International Criminal Court can be trusted. Here's a verdict of $900 million at the International Criminal Court. We are hoping the three groups, Caribbean Diaspora, Lives Matter, Time Done, and Limited Value, are hoping for a verdict of $500 million so that we can pay for the publicity to go around and talk to people, go around in the communities and make a difference. So we want to be able to get our Zoom meetings, and we want to be able to compare notes, because I want to tell you, my family is not in Palm Beach County. My family is safe in Washington, my family is safe in New York, and my family is safe in Canada and the UK. Palm Beach County is a special hotspot, and Donald Trump reigns in Palm Beach County. He has property in the most expensive part of Palm Beach County. So I see the guys driving around with his banners and posters and stuff like that support him. And I guess the other developers and builders, like the billionaire owner of Investments Limited, was pardoned by Trump, and Charles Kushner was also pardoned by Trump. So This is a real hot spot, but my family isn't here. But I tell my family every little thing that happens. I take pictures and everything. And I want us, the three groups, to do the same thing. We need to compare notes. I'm going to contact Nicole Brown's sisters because they cannot just sit there and be silent. So these three groups, we're going to be organized with all the evidence and everything that we need. But here are some kinds of verdicts that occurred from 2008 to 2022: 100 million, 500 million, 1 billion, 100 million, 1 billion. So we're going to try to make a difference. When I first contacted the International Criminal Court, there were 8 judges. One of them was a Jamaican judge. I don't know if I had the correct email addresses, but I noticed there are 18 judges now. I did not try to contact them, but I'll try to get everything done between getting the three groups together and contacting the court and the attorney. I'll try to get all of this done because we need something to change. But most of America, they drive from their job to their house, to the mall. They have a good old time and they don't worry about change and they don't worry about what's being covered up. They don't care about cover-ups and they don't care about how other people think and who's giving permission for certain things to happen. And they don't care about what's being normalized. But myself, although I don't work in government anymore, my government service and my civic duty began 48 years ago. So I'm approaching this as just something I need to do. And although Florida Atlantic University is a Trump supporter, universities are schools of debate. They like to hear the other side of the story and prove somebody right or wrong. I put my diploma on here because the best time I had was when I attended FAU and worked at Walgreens. People at Walgreens were like my family, and my professors were incredible. I had a professor from Siemens, which is one of the top technology companies. And I'm actually at Florida Atlantic University Computer Lab making this final edition of this video. And to me, for them to allow me to make this video in here is very nice. I was just in the library too, because I graduated and left 2009. Here are Tim Wall's alumni. He was a teacher and a coach, giving him so much support. So I think he'll be a great help to Kamala Harris to unite the country and get Gen Z to get a better future. So Kamala Harris's campaign has so many great slogans. She's a fighter, and her father told her to be fierce, and that's pretty good. And she's saying to trust women. So women want a seat at the table. We want opportunities to work, have autonomy over our own bodies, and have respect in the community. But Luke 23:28-31, Jesus, who is King in heaven right now, he showed empathy for weeping women. I fight for the 300 women in my family. I fight for the millions of women in the United States, and I fight for the billions of women all over the world. This is my little tyke right here, sitting with my grandmother in Jamaica, and my value system was so different, and I didn't realize it was so different. But my mother bought that house right in front of the elementary school, and I would go home for lunch and jump the fence, go back to school. And the principal at that school was so good that her daughter was the first female to have a PhD in engineering. And she has a space company right now, and she has a charity for Caribbean studies. But my son is now dead, and I feel like if I had left him at my mother's house, because my mother's house is like the eagle's nest. It's near the airport, and it's at the elementary school for me. And it could have been at the elementary school for my son. So I can see that one of the opposing values that I have is that we really cherish our education, and then we are interdependent because my family used to help each other. These two women right here, this one, her mother worked for the court system and she went to school in Jamaica. She went to a Catholic high school, and this one went to a Methodist co-ed school. She has two master's degrees and she's married to a judge, and she has a PhD. But the point about it is that with our cultures, we don't have to have conflict. We have to explain ourselves to each other. If we're not compatible with each other, we can still have a dialogue about it and why we are not able to get along. But I have a unique case because, like I said, I actually went to an expensive Anglican school for girls and studied French to go to school in Canada. I have family in Canada who was just here. And the choice to come to the United States because of the Jackson 5, and well, I had some family in Miami. It was a really uneducated decision because I did not know about the volatility, because my sister is now killed and I think somebody was sent to kill her. I really believe that. But my family is not listening to me. I'm trying to tell them that girl did not have an accident. Somebody was sent to do that. Just like the gangs in government were doing things to me, because I guess the police gangs talk to each other. So the Caribbean diaspora is just spread all over the world. My best friend's in Germany, and my sister's in the UK, and family in Canada, some Washington and New York. But people from the Caribbean, they just live all over the world. So I will reach out to them because they're part of the three different groups which are going to work together on this problem.